Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
Oh man, I've been watching a lot of videos online about excessive car repairs, and it's usually related to electric cars. Oh, this car got hit, and now he's going to need $50,000 of repairs to a car that was like $75 new, and oh, this car needs a battery, and it's going to be $40,000 repair bill. Oh, it's so crazy. Do you people out there, and I'm addressing all of you out there, do you people actually believe what you're seeing? Google whenever you see this kind of stuff, Google for yourself costs on these things, and you'll be shocked. It's just a lot of it is more media and news just not telling you how it is.
Well, and they got some shock and awe people trying to get subscribers to their YouTube channel too, and
what?
And that would never happen.
No.
Yeah, there are some.
We should address that on our YouTube channel.
Yeah,
we should.
We should.
Our YouTube channel that you subscribe, ring the bell.
Yeah.
And what should we put up there? Crazy prices. But no, it's just been crazy lately. Some of the things, and even as it relates to normal stuff in auto repair shops, like me, it's like, oh yeah, I went in to get my turn signal replaced, and it was $8,000. I can't believe how much these prices are going up. No, it's not that way. Things have increased in the last few years, but not like that. It just seems like things are a way ahead. And the other thing I noticed this morning too, we addressed texting and driving many years ago.
What about texting and doing a radio show?
Well, that too. Go ahead. It's important. I know.
I was sending a note to our guests that are coming that let them know that they could listen to us on the radio as they're driving in for the last hour.
Mm-hmm. But he probably won't get it because he probably doesn't text and drive.
Very possible.
Maybe the passenger will get it. But I did notice as I was coming in this morning, I said, boy, it seems like I'm just noticing a lot of people that are on their phone. And when I was coming in, it happened to be the time where everybody's headed to school. Because I got delayed, had to run back home and then come back. So as I'm driving, I'm seeing all these people headed my way, headed to school. And there were a lot of, I would say more people than were not. Like 8 out of every 10 cars, somebody was face down in the phone as they were driving forward. And occasionally they would glance up, and we're going 30 miles an hour. I was like, wow. I haven't been in that traffic with that group for a while.
Yeah, because you usually leave before that traffic.
But I'm wondering if you're right, Chris, because and when I say you're right, you had mentioned because we're doing this all the time and because people start their driving life. They've been texting already for probably 10 years when they start driving at, let's say, 16. So now they're driving. Are they so adept at it now that are they better drivers than like you and I would be as if we were on the phone texting, because it's something that's, part of life now, because you shouldn't do it. But I don't know how it's ever going to be squashed where people can't do it. Mm-hmm. So if they're doing it, are the rates of dangerous collisions down? Because they still happen, but I wonder if they're down some.
We see plenty of wrecked cars at the auctions that are...
And we call them the text ones because
you can just see them.
Yeah, the front end dives down because they hit the brakes at the last minute and
high
go under
front
the
end
bumper.
hit. They've been not paying attention, then all of a sudden hit the brakes and ran into something. You see them all the time. The collision shop friends of mine, they see them all the time. I think they're up, not down.
866-594-4150. Let's take some calls. We'll start with Mike. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Mike, what can we do for you?
Yes, we got our son's old pickup. It's a 2002 Chevrolet half-ton four-wheel drive, and I drove it to work a little bit. And one morning, when I turned in a corner, it to me sounded like a spring or something like that snap, like a leaf spring snap. But I don't know, looked underneath, couldn't see nothing, and drove it to work and looked around, didn't find nothing. And then I was going to leave and totally lost reverse. Some of you are saying that there's a clutch band that'll snap, but I think all the forward gears work. I'm not 100% sure. We haven't drove it since. But I was wondering what gear transmissions will fit in that. Is there more in?
Well, we got a few questions going on here, and we're going to try to address them both. The transmission interchange is fairly wide. If you look at the remanufacturers that sell remanufactured transmissions, they've got a year range on those trannies. On a lot of them, that'll go like from 99 until 06. And then there's a 06 to 02 on another variant in there that will fit. But when we look at our used parts interchange, they're a lot more narrow than that because they take more pieces into account, whether it be the range selector switch or where the park neutral safety switch plugs in. Those are almost the same thing in some vehicles, but there's just enough differences where they separate them. But that's what we will do a lot of times is look at what does the remanufacturer do? How many years do they group together? And there is quite a range there. And if you gave a call out and looked in like Car Dash Part in the internet and or called your local professional automotive recycler, they would be able to give you some of that information based on both those criteria. Because like at our place, we never did this in the past, but we stock a lot of remanufactured units to go as a collateral sale or an additional option. When we say we have options, that's what we talk about is we could have a used OEM for sale. We could have a remanufactured for sale, and we could have a OEM surplus unit for sale, and maybe some other options too.
Go pull it yourself.
And it could be, hey, go to the self-service and maybe find one. That's a harder tranny to find in a self-service good, but there's people that are successful doing that. So that question's got to get a little more information, but there's a pretty big range there that fits. But as far as the noise, Russ, hearing something snap.
I think something bound up in the transmission, and he heard the old noise that you do, like if you're parked on too steep a hill and try to pull it out of park, and it goes ping, like a spring breaking. I bet that's what he heard, and it was probably something inside the transmission that had bound up and broke, and then he didn't have reverse.
Is this a four-wheel drive truck or two-wheel drive?
Four-wheel.
Yeah, because if it would have been something that broke in the transfer case, which is also not uncommon on those, you probably would have lost both forward and reverse, most likely.
Because there's no one-way clutch in there.
Right. So since you lost just reverse, and reverse is a pretty primary gear in that transmission, it's hard to lose reverse and not have other problems. Because usually the fallback is when a tranny starts wearing out, you'll have first and reverse for a while, but you'll lose fourth, third, second, kind of working its way down the tree until the metal goes through the system, and then it just starts tearing everything up. So to actually hear something, it's more than likely catastrophic, and your question about a transmission is probably appropriate.
Does that help you out there, Mike?
Yes, that does. I haven't taken it out yet or pulled the pan or anything, but I just was thinking getting a different one and putting in. And
yeah, they're pretty high. They're pretty high demand yet because that's a very popular truck, and there's a lot of demand. And those trucks, they keep them living unless they completely rust out. People keep them going.
Mike, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the phone number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. We had a call come in last week after the show, and it was a very popular topic that we want to address.
Yeah.
Check engine light. Mm-hmm. Do I need it? And I thought of this because my daughter brought our car home. She stopped up to see you guys at the shop with our car, got her car and left, and texted me an hour later and said, check engine lights on.
Can I ignore it?
Can I ignore it?
Well, so a check engine light comes on whenever there's an increased emissions level in your car. Now, depending on how that light acts is how serious the problem is. let's say it's flashing. That means let's stop that engine now, because we have got to the point of emissions and misfire on the engine where we could damage things, the catalytic converters, the exhaust, the valves, pistons. We could burn up the engine. We could hurt it. If it comes on and it's steady, it is alerting you there is a problem in the system that could turn into a bigger problem. But if you ignored it at that point, if it's steady and the vehicle is running well, you don't see a drastic change in fuel mileage, you don't see a change in power, yeah, you could probably ignore your check engine light and get away with it for a period. But that could filled the car with fuel with the engine running because it was cold outside or hot outside, or you just didn't want to turn your car off. Sometimes with like a Prius and things with a push button, if they stop when you pull up to the pump,
Yeah.
it's not running and you forget, or you walk into the house at night and you leave your car on.
Mm-hmm.
And you leave your keys in the car so it doesn't beep when you walk away from it, and then you leave your car on all night. Those things can happen. So if your check engine light is on, you should not ignore it, but at the very least, you should find out why it's on. Now, if it turns out to be something big, let's say it's an evaporative emissions system issue, and it happens to be a Chrysler that's got the leak detection pump and stuff, and they tell you it's going to be $900 to fix it, and you just say, I'd rather not fix it, but I still I care about my car. I don't want it to be hurt. You could go pick yourself up one of those check engine light code readers for like $30 at most parts stores, the Bluetooth one that connects to your phone, and you can read your codes yourself. And if it says the emission system for the evaporative and that's all that it says and it stays that way for a year, you check it once a month. You could probably be okay with that.
Won't it block other codes, though?
It can, depending on what they are.
Right.
Now, the evap system is one of the last codes, and it really doesn't block a lot. It wouldn't block an O2 sensor or a misfire code or a mass airflow. But on the other hand, if you have a mass airflow sensor failing and you decide 2 years later, I'm going to get the mass airflow code fixed, you could have oxygen sensor codes and evap codes and all sorts of other stuff. That's why when people come into our shop for a check engine light repair and they say, just fix this. And we say, well, we're going to start with a mass airflow sensor. Then the codes are in order. That's the number one. We're going to fix this, but your light might come on in a day or a week or a month because there are other things that haven't run yet. The monitors haven't run, just to be aware of it.
I think the key to what Russ said there that I think is important is if you have a check engine light on and you have a noticeable change in how the car is operating, you have very good reason to be concerned, and you should take heed to not be driving that car.
Right.
Because the check engine light was not put in to say, drive to the dealership immediately because this light is on. It's an indication that something's out of parameters and you need to get it checked out soon.
Mm-hmm.
And if that starts flashing, that's different. And it's like, hey, we're damaging stuff right now, and you need to get this fixed. And it's there's some wiggle room there. That's the big deal.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Nick. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Nick, what can we do for you?
Good morning, guys. I have a 2010 Mercedes R350. The 4MATIC gasoline engine. Check engine light is not on, but my car stalls. Sometimes when I'm driving, sometimes when it's parked. And just need some help with that car.
Yeah, so it'll stall when you're in park, just sitting there idling. It'll just shuts off by itself. Yeah. Okay, but when it stalls going down the road, has it ever stalled while you're going uphill under acceleration, or will it only do it while you're coasting?
Uphill or downhill or in a trade road.
And
every week is different.
When it stalls, is it like an immediate, it just shuts off, like you turn the key off, or does it start to bog down when you're going up that hill and just, and then finally it just won't go?
It takes like a few seconds and then it stalls.
From what we've seen, we don't work on a ton of these cars, but what we've seen and know of them, we have seen a few with crankshaft position sensors that have failed on them, enough that it catches my thought when you call. That's the first thing I'm thinking of. They've had some issues with those, and it's usually when the car is warmer, but we've seen them do it cold as well. And what happens is it loses that internal connection of its coil that senses the crankshaft rotating, and then it kills the engine. And if it's starting to break down as you're going uphill as well, it can jitter enough to and shut down. So,
and some vehicles have the ability to just change their thinking to say, all right, I'm still running. I got cam signal. I lost a crank signal, and they'll keep going, but then it'll be a problem when you go to start it again. So every vehicle can kind of operate different in that regard, can't it, Russ, as far as depending on how that vehicle is made from that manufacturer?
They call it failure effects management mode on cars.
Interesting.
And they are set up to work in different, that just popped in my head for some reason. But what happens?
That was impressive.
You mean you made it up? Or?
Yeah, exactly.
Fact checker. We need fact checkers.
FEMM. So if it fails while you're driving, it says, what is my failure mode? So if it's the failure mode is we lost crank sensor, now do we read the cam sensor and the throttle position and mass airflow to keep going, or is the mode shut the engine down?
And the fact that this thing dies going uphill, downhill, different positions, I think if you had if it does it frequently enough that you can duplicate it, I don't care whether it's a Toyota or a Mercedes or a Ferrari. I think that a good service center with a scanner hooked up to it, knowing it's going to do this, is going to find this.
Yeah,
they're going to find this rather quickly. Which system is causing it?
I would think so.
And you don't have to hunt as hard. But if it does it like once every 3 weeks, good luck.
Nick, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Missouri and talk to Harold. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Harold, what can we do for you?
Yes, I've got a 2000 Lincoln Town Car, and I have a starting problem. We've had an ignition switch put in it twice, and it's still messing up. And what it'll do is the door's locked, and then we can't get in it. I try that count to three, and then unlock the door again. And sometimes that'll work, sometimes it won't. And then sometimes it works fine, and then all of a sudden, boom! It messes up. Now somebody else, the mechanic said that it was the ignition switches. Somebody else has checked it and said that it was a computer underneath the seat. Now here for it's probably been a couple months now. I don't lock the doors because I heard that the key fob might have been messing up. I haven't been locking the doors. This thing starts, and it's been doing fine. And another question is the cabin filter. I can't find one for a 2000 Lincoln. It shows a 2002 Lincoln, I think it is. So what would I be able to fit in there? Somebody told me it was out of a Grand Prix or Ford, big Ford.
I'll answer the last question first. I don't believe that car has a cabin air filter, and that's why you can't find it in the catalog. And so when they went to the next generation, they may have updated that HVAC box and added one, but to the best of my knowledge, I don't think they had one in that year. Russ, is that correct?
I think that's correct. Just get yourself an old sock and stretch it over the inlet,
But we definitely know that I don't think it's the cabin air filter causing this problem.
Is it a good sign that leaving it unlocked fixes the problem?
Yeah. So when we used to put remote starters in these cars, there is a security switch in the doors, and the driver's door has one, and we'd have to tap into it so that when we hit the remote start, it would disarm that security, start the car, and then arm it again. And it does that by that wire and that switch. So in that latch, there's a switch that turns the security on and off. If you happen to unlock the car with the remote or the key, it triggers by moving the plunger on that lock. It sets the switch. It's not done through the computer like the newer cars. You open the door, get in, the security's still on. You can't start it. You turn the key, nothing. So it's possible it's in that door latch. So if you continue to drive it without locking the doors and it's fine, be looking at the driver's side door latch for the problem of that issue.
Harold, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel and join the Hoodie fan club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Jimmy George. Congratulations from all of us here at Under the Hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu. Had them on the show last week. If you missed it, you can visit our YouTube page or listen to our podcast episode for the extra. And you can hear everything we talked about in the description of all the stuff that we wanted to know about UTI.
What stood out in that interview for you the most? Because I have a specific thing that stood out that I've told several people.
For me, it was the amount of people, the ages of some of the people, and what they previously did. You had a lawyer, I think he said, that came in, decided he wanted to work on cars. So he came at an older age and wanted to learn about cars. That type of thing stood out.
For me, it was they have a website where the industry, automotive industry, can post
Jobs.
help wanted ads for Universal Technical Institute students. And he said he checked this morning and there were about 30,000 jobs posted.
Yeah.
That was a kind of a bellwether moment for that interview.
That's a growing industry then, kids, if you want to.
Yeah, go back to our YouTube channel and watch the episode. If you don't want to watch the whole episode, just jump to the end, follow the nice little
watch all the
sections
ads
there, and
let them roll.
And now, if you want to help out students with the scholarship fund, thanks to our friend Mr. Falavalita, we have now got a button for both Chris's charity, the Children's Miracle Network, CMN, and also the Universal Technical Institute, right there on the bottom of our website at underthehoodshow.com.
I feel like I should clarify a little. It's CMN. I work with them.
Yeah, it's not. I'd say his. It's more like his baseball.
My
team.
charity. You can just Venmo me.
There you go.
It's called GoFundMe.
GoFund Chris. Do we put a button up there for you? Here.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to John. You're on the Under the Hood Show. John, what can we do for you?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me. Got a question on a GMC 2019 Sierra. I think it's standard 5.3 with the regular, 345s in the rear end, kind of the standard pack.
That's one of them.
342 is what GM would be, just to be.
Two and this 373.
342, yeah, no, it's not the 373s. It's 342s. Anyway, take a turn off 41st Street in Sioux Falls. This happened just a couple days ago. Make a tight turn, shattered, like the wheels were locked up. Thought, is this thing in four-wheel drive? No, it was in too high. I thought, well, that was kind of weird. I wasn't expecting that chatter, chatter, chatter. Make another slow, tight turn to get into a parking lot. Shattered again. It was the rear wheels locking up and binding, like it was in positraction or something. Thought, now that is crazy. That's nuts. This vehicle is brand new. So putting along at about, a mile and a half, 2 miles an hour, you know how you go slow when you're looking for a parking spot. And boom, made a noise. You actually felt it. It popped. And then everything was fine.
All right.
Stopped chattering.
What we need to do, since you seem to be very in tune with your vehicle, you know your gear ratio. Most people couldn't tell us that in a heartbeat unless we made them look it up. And you knew what motor you had in it. You're on top of this. Look and find out. And I think in a 2019, they still have a code list in the glove box or center console of all the build option codes of that vehicle. If not, you might see a QR code along with the factory sticker that has the VIN number and stuff on it. And in some readers, that QR code can get you enough information to learn. But if not, you may have to just go to the dealer and have them give you your options. You need to find out if that truck is equipped with the G80 code, which would be for limited slip differential. And if it is a G80 code, my hunch is that if that rear end isn't damaged, which it could be damaged, but it could just be that you need a friction modifier added to the rear end grease, and those clutch packs are sticking together. It's not uncommon in a GM vehicle for that to happen. It's not uncommon for a lot of vehicles for that to happen, and it'll do exactly what you just described. And then eventually they'll break loose, and then everything will be good again. But it just has to do with the way that the fluids are passing through those plates that are in there for the coupling, the viscous coupling that's in the carrier of the rear differential, and they're sticking together. And it's making it think it's locked in place when it really needs to let those clutches be free, and they're sticking together. And so you might consider, how many miles do you have on the truck now?
There's just a little over 30,000.
Very low miles. Do you do any towing with it, or the previous owner, or is it brand new to you, or was it brand new?
It's brand new. It's had light towing. It's not used for towing.
No, but that's probably what's going on. And it's not, you're not going to have the first one to have this happen. And it's not, I remember the first time I had it happen was when I was in high school. I had a car that did that, and it just scared the death out of me. I'm like, what is going on?
Out.
Yeah, I thought it was something going wrong. And so I was down at the parts department at Kindler Pontiac Cadillac, and good old Jim down there, and said, he goes, here, you need a little bottle of this friction modifier. And he pulled out a GM friction modifier that they had right over the parts counter. And I put it in the rear axle of that. At the time, it was a Buick Regal Grand National, and the problem went away.
Well, the dealer has been notified. They documented it, but they didn't do anything. At least it's documented because the vehicle is clearly under warranty.
Well, you got to be careful there on time. You might check that. You don't have miles, but you might have time on unless yours was 5/100 when you bought it. They had different warranties.
Mm-hmm.
They were changing the warranties up in about that period. You might want to check on that because most stuff is 336 anymore, or 350, in that range on the drivetrain. But regardless, I think the solution is going to be simple. I think with the age that you have on that, it's new to you, but it is already 4 years old in production, just about 5 when the new models come out, and a service of the rear differential with a new friction modifier installed most likely fixes the problem. If it doesn't, they're going to take that cover off to do the inspection and the fluid change, and they're going to find pieces in there, and then there's just something else that happened.
That's important, though, to get that documented if it does.
Yep, doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way if it does come out of warranty and they say, I've been in 3 times for this, you didn't fix anything.
You got a little more of an argument to have a discussion.
John, thanks very much for the call. Interesting that he said it's new, and I went, oh, yeah, he's got it. And then I stopped and did this. Oh, no, it's 4, maybe 5 years old physically.
Well, it's the new generation truck, and so it still feels
Seems new. And
2019 with 30,000 miles. You know what that baby's worth? Woo!
Yeah, it's a premium vehicle. So
866-594-4150. Let's go to Virginia and talk to Tim. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Tim, what can we do for you?
Good morning, guys. Thank y'all for being there for people like me.
You bet. Thanks for calling.
And I wanted to congratulate Jimmy George. I'm envious.
All right.
My question, Russ, is back in the 70s, we would put spark plugs in, and we'd take them back out after 12,000 miles. So they didn't need anti-seize on them. But then at some point, I started putting anti-seize on spark plugs, putting them in, because they were going to stay in for so long. Now I'm hearing that the spark plugs are coated. Do not put anti-seize on them. Is there a point in time where you still need to go back and put anti-seize on some spark plugs, or are they coating them all now and it's no longer needed?
We haven't put anti-seize on spark plugs or had any issue getting them out of the vehicle for many years. I know I still use them on older engines, old iron head engines. I still do it. And the aluminum ones were the ones that would stick. But since the Ford plugs that would not come out of the engines after that happened, we just haven't had a lot of problems getting spark plugs out of the vehicles.
But you still have problems with the Fords, right?
Yeah, with the old ones that were sticking originally, those repeated. So those we still put anti-seize on, but newer than that, yeah, I'm not putting anti-seize on the newer 5.4s, the newer Chevy 5.3s, 6.2s.
Have you ever seen a Bolton that says don't put the anti-seize on?
I haven't seen a bulletin either way on them, or installation procedures that say use it or not. We used to see it on the spark plug containers. They would say use anti-seize on these.
That would be a good question for if we have an interview with our partners, NGK and TK, when that comes up. They've got the shop squad that helps the people in the industry. But that would be I'd like to ask him that question.
Yeah, that is that's a very good question. But as far as in the shop goes, I can't tell you the last, other than those Fords that we couldn't get the plugs out of, I can't tell you the last vehicle that I had trouble getting plugs out of, even at 200,000 miles.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Newer ones, and I say newer ones meaning like 2010 and newer, that seems like brand new, but 2010 is not brand new anymore.
Does that help you out there, Tim?
Yes, it does. But I do have another question.
Okay.
I have a 1970s International tractor, diesel, and it leaks fuel so badly in so many places that whenever I get off of it, I just automatically go under and turn the fuel valve off to stop any pressure so that it doesn't leak so much. Is that something that when they changed the diesel fuel, it caused them to leak worse, or is it just the age of mine that has started it to leaking?
I've seen diesel engines over many years, going back to the 30s and newer, that just always leaked. They leaked out the pumps, they leaked out the injectors, they leaked out the return lines. The biggest problem is the return lines. Anything with a rubber return line, they will start to leak. And since it doesn't affect the performance quite as much if you have a little leak in a return line as a supply line where you're getting air directly in there, you may not notice it. And you may just be able to replace all your return lines and not have as big a leak or even stop all the leaks. But yes, when you pulled that sulfur out of the diesel fuel back in like 2007, which has been a long time now, you've got to run an additive in every tank of fuel in order to replace that and to add the lubricity back to the engine. We use the Justice Brothers diesel additive, winter anti-gel, which has the lubricator in it, and also the summer, which will help control the algae, and especially if one sits for a while on hot, humid days outside. And that prevents these issues. Sometimes people using equipment don't think about using the additive as much as people using cars and trucks driving down the road. And
for sure.
It's important. It's changed a lot, but you could. So what you could do is, are you using? This is not a road equipment. So are you using the dyed diesel fuel that's cheaper, that's either not taxed or lower taxed where you're at in this vehicle?
Most of the time, I go to where the diesel fuel is not taxed, not for highway use, it's for equipment use.
Good.
But sometimes it's closer and easier to get the diesel fuel that goes into vehicles on the highway. So
sure.
I vary it back and forth, but mostly off-road diesel.
If it's off-road, then they put dye in it, and they put the dye in there so that the DOT, when they pull you over, they can shine a light at the fuel cap, and if there's residue there, it's going to light up. So in your road truck, but in this tractor, it's perfect. Good news about this is you can go to most auto parts stores or even a big box store like a Home Depot or something now and buy a UV flashlight. Then get yourself, you could use just even dish soap, some heavy dish soap and a rag, and clean off all your injector lines and everything on this diesel engine. There's not a lot of electrical to get wet and damage, and then rinse it off. Then take your light and shine over all the connections, all the bolt-ons, everything you can, and look for traces of the dye. Wash it again until they're all gone. Then start the engine up for a minute, turn it off, and look with your light until you find where that dye is illuminating. And when you see it, make that repair.
Chris wants to do it.
Yeah, I totally do.
Start at the top, work your way down. And it may be that the injector return lines at the top are leaking, and you can fix those and no more leaks. So you can slowly work your way down. And the cost for some dish soap and a rag and that $20 UV light is pretty cheap to diagnose it yourself.
Tim, thanks very much for the call. Tim makes me want to go back in time and ask 100 16-year-olds in 1970 about their spark plugs, and then ask 100 16-year-olds right now about their spark plugs and see the difference in the answer. You know what I mean?
Well, in the future, I think that they'll say what spark plugs.
Right. I think they might say that now. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Ethan. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you, Ethan?
Good morning, guys. I have a 2008 Kia Sedona, and I'm starting to have some problems when I'm accelerating, and I get above 2,500 to 3,000 RPMs. My headlights dim, and then 2 warning lights turn on. My parking brake warning light and my low battery warning light. I have no clue what is going on here.
I think you have a charging system failure going on, and whether it's simple, like a battery cable that's not making a really good connection and it loses some of its capacitance at those higher RPMs, or it's a little more detailed, like you have a serpentine belt slipping at the higher RPMs, so your alternator's not keeping up and your battery voltage gets lower and lower as you go. It's something like that, I think, is what's going on. Because if your battery voltage drops to a certain point, you will not only have your lights flicker and dim a little bit, but the engine can actually start stalling. And then you'll get some warning lights, like a check engine light, an airbag light coming on, ABS light coming on, and the code in there would be battery low voltage in there. And it's common on Kia and lots of other vehicles. The terminals, they may look clean at the battery, but if you were to peel back a little bit of the cable, the covering, just a little, like a 1/4 inch back from the end, you may see that it's white and foamy looking inside. That's pretty common. Our partners over at the Battery Shop channel on YouTube, they address these things in videos. And I was going through there the other day and checking out some of the things, and that's one of the videos I found that they're like, "How does this look to you?" "Well, it looks great. It's clean. Terminals are tight." "No, these cables are actually bad." And you peel them back a little bit, and they were green and corroded for about 2 inches inside of there. So somebody had cleaned the cables in the past, and they were green because it starts from the battery terminal and goes back with leak and acid. And they cleaned up the cables so they looked nice on the end, but inside they were dirty.
Ethan, does it do the same thing at 7,000 RPMs?
I haven't gotten that high, but as far as
Don't do that. Don't listen to Shannon.
I don't know that engine has a 7,000 RPM.
It probably shuts it off at 61 or so.
You probably don't want to try it now anyway.
No.
I was just checking.
Ethan, thanks very much for the call. It's something to look at, though, and if it's doing it regularly, you'll be able to tell right away, right?
Yeah, for sure.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Kevin. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Kevin, what can we do for you?
Morning, fellas. How you doing?
Fantastic.
See on a tugboat?
Great. Yep. Hey, question for you here. 2018 Kia Forte. I live in the great state of South Dakota now, and if it sits for more than 2 days, sub-freezing temperatures, it is really tough to start. And then when it does start, it runs rough. And I'm a West Coast refugee, and it never did it in warmer climates. Just now when I've moved to this beautiful state of ours.
Do you experience the same problems personally on your cold starts coming from the West Coast?
Well, yes, I do. This last winter was a little bit of an eye-opener, but we still love the great state of South Dakota.
Well, so how long have you been here?
We've been here for about a year and a half. So
you experienced some stuff.
Yeah, this was the worst winter we've had in decades.
You've experienced some stuff. You got it all. Because if you came into summer last year, you experienced some storms that rolled through.
And very hot weather.
And hot weather. And then you got the buttload of snow that we had and wind. And
let's not go past
the
fact.
Not a normal year.
Our cars go through 100-degree heat. And then the fact that it sits in sub-zero temperatures for days And it's remarkable that it doesn't just start. I think that's remarkable.
I think
that
his car's not acclimated yet.
No, I think it's got a little bit of carbon buildup from the West Coast days of driving, and it's not. The fuel's a little different. It just needs a little cleanup. I think he might be one of these candidates for the. Kevin wrote in and said he used Berryman B12 Chem Tool in his fuel tank, and it cleaned it up after just 2 tankfuls. Yeah, it's very seriously. That is what we would suggest.
His car's like a high schooler, mad that they had to move here and switch schools.
Left all their friends behind.
So what does Kevin do? Just
puts the Berryman B12 Chem Tool in the tank to start with. I would run it through at least 2 tankfuls and see if that cures it up.
And then wait 10 months until the
Well, do it again when it comes a little closer, but now get ahead of it and try to clean it up.
That vehicle,
Berryman B12 Chem Tool. It's available at almost every auto parts stores, Walmart. I mean, any place you can shop for liquids to go in your car is going to have it. It's a popular item. But what happens is the carbon starts to build up in the engine and the little varnish and stuff in the injections in the back of the valves, and it soaks up the fuel on the really cold mornings, and then it floods because it starts to drip because it soaks it up. But on warm mornings, it doesn't do that because everything changes when that temp starts getting, the closer to 0 it gets, the worse this problem's going to be, especially if it sits.
And it closer to 0, not 32. Not below freezing, but closer to 0 Fahrenheit.
The temperature of 0 Fahrenheit,
Right.
not the Canadian 0.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting that 0 is the mark, even though it's not the mark for.
It just happens to be where that happens.
And you did say you don't have any check engine lights on or anything, or did we ask that question?
No check engine light. Sometimes the oil light will flicker just for a brief second on startup.
Everybody just
on
Kevin.
startup? Just on startup,
Just
we're
on
okay.
startup.
We were, for a minute, you should have seen us on YouTube.
Yeah.
We were all cringing
Everybody-
because if it's starting to flicker a little bit, like at stop signs when the engine's warm, run very quickly.
Yeah.
Or save a lot of money.
Yeah, check your oil. Make sure you're using the right viscosities oils that's recommended for that car. And
Kevin, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivants. Hour 2 is coming up. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show. Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. We've got calls coming in. We've got people on hold in the queue. That's what I like to call it now.
The Q 95.7 hits all the
So
time.
let's get right to the calls and talk to David first. David, you're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I have a 2000 Silverado 1500 with a 5.3. I just changed the spark plugs in it for the first time at 200,000 miles. What's the easiest way to get the last spark plug out on the passenger side bank?
Pray, swear, right tools. Yeah, that baby's in there far back, and there's a lot of stuff there with the heater box and stuff. So what I usually do is get myself a 5/8 spark plug socket, not a spark plug socket. I get me a 5/8 non-spark plug. So just your standard 3/8 drive socket. And I slip it over the top of it, and then I stick my ratchet in there to pull it back. And if I need to, I use the shortest extension available, like the 1 inch, just a tiny extension, to pull it loose. Or I have a 3/8, about a 18-inch long swivel head ratchet. And you could pick those up on Amazon for like $12 for the cheap ones that aren't real strong.
Something you're going to use just every now and then.
Yes, if you're not, because otherwise the Snap-on ones are like $100 and some bucks, $160. But that really helps with those spark plugs to break them loose. But I found that if you use the spark plug socket that has a little rubber insert and everything in it, and the nut head on it, it just doesn't. Yeah. It's not quite the right length in there. Although they're great for pulling the plug out. But that's that's what I do to get them in there. And I've put lots of plugs in those trucks and pulled them out to inspect them and things like that. But yeah, it can be tricky. I tell you what, the hardest part of changing spark plugs is probably trying to figure out which tool you're going to use to pull them out with.
Well, I had to use my half-inch drive, 18-inch breaker bar to break the plugs loose. They were seized.
Ooh. Yeah, it's a 2000. Yeah. Is this an Ironhead 2000? Is it like a? It's aluminum.
It's an aluminum. It's aluminum head.
Okay, because they had some iron. I'm sorry, I'm backwards. Iron blocks they were using in there, but something. Yeah, never mind. Forget that. Scratch that.
Yeah, this is the iron block.
Yeah, with the aluminum head on it. I was.
But with 200,000 miles on it, the fact that they've been in there that long,
yeah,
it's still. Usually doesn't need that much torque to get them out.
They've probably been out before, and somebody probably over torqued them a little bit. Because if, let's say we were talking about anti-seize earlier show, if they were seized, they wouldn't just crack loose and then spin out. They would have drug the whole way.
David, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Trey in South Carolina. Trey, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Hey, can you hear me?
You bet.
All right, I have a 1995 Buick Roadmaster station wagon. It's kind of did something short, like not too long ago. I noticed coming to a stop at a stoplight, the car actually like completely stalled out. Never done this before. Out of nowhere. I probably haven't driven a car in, I would say, 3 weeks at the most. But it cuts, as soon as it cuts off once it comes to a stop, it cuts right back on every single time. Like literally yesterday on the way from work, it cut off at every single stoplight and it cut right back on. So I made it home, but I can't drive the car like that.
So it shut down.
Any idea what that could be?
It shut down, but you're able to start it right back up every time is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, but it
My
didn't.
Prius does that. Does he have start-stop technology in that 95?
No, he does not, Chris.
Okay. Not on a 1995.
No.
So
he's got an LT motor in there, though.
You're pulling up to the stop, and the engine just goes and dies, like you've got a clutch and you forgot to push it in at the stoplight, and then you just put it neutral and you fire it back up, and you're good to go. That's what you're saying, right?
Pretty much. It's probably more so as I'm coming to the stop.
Right.
So
yeah.
Once the car gets about under 7 miles an hour, that's when I can tell it's about to die off.
Well,
yeah, usually, yeah. Like you said, just put the car right in park, it cuts right back up.
What happens if you put it in neutral as you're coasting up to a stop? Does it still die?
I honestly didn't try that.
Let's try that and see, because I think you've got 1 of 2 issues going on. Either you've got an idle air control motor that's starting to fail and it's not keeping the idle up where it should, or what's happening is that your torque converter clutch in the transmission is not releasing. So it'll die. The other thing you can do to test this is, instead of driving the speed you normally do between these stop signs, when it's dying like that all the time, pull onto a area in a residential area or something where you can drive a little bit slower, like maybe top speed only, let's say 6-7 miles an hour instead of 30 or whatever it is between the stop signs, and then drive for a block and stop and do that for 2 blocks. If it doesn't stall, that's the torque converter clutch, because the torque converter clutch won't lock up until you hit about 20 miles an hour in that car and over second gear. So when it does hit that gear and locks up, then what's happening is it locks up, it sticks, it won't release. The other thing you could do is to test that theory is, if you put your foot on the brake as you're slowing down, put it in neutral, and make sure that your slowing down process is at least 15, 20 seconds. If you've got nobody behind you and you can coast down like that, and then put it in drive once you come to a full stop, if it doesn't die, yeah, it's likely going to be the torque converter clutch.
I got to ask you a couple questions about this Roadmaster. I'm intrigued because these cars
they're getting cool.
They're legendary now. So is this a wagon or a sedan?
It's a wagon.
It's a wagon. Better yet. All right, so now we got to guess, and you don't answer until we all three have guessed. Does this wagon have wood on it? Yes or no?
I was thinking,
Chris. What do you guys think? Is it got wood on it? Yes or no?
I think for sure.
We don't care if it's real wood.
Right. I think
we're 1995 here now.
I think for sure.
So guess wood or no wood in color?
Wood and white.
I'm thinking it's wood and maroon.
I'm saying no wood and blue, light blue. What do we got, Trey?
It's actually wood and white.
Oh, look at that.
Chris hits it.
100%.
Is it modified at all?
It's lower. I got it lower 2 inches around.
Sweet.
And okay, how big are the wheels?
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna guess they're at least 20-inch.
22s.
Yeah, they actually are 20s. Yeah.
20s. Oh. I'm batting zero here.
Yeah.
Send a picture and put it on our Facebook page.
Yeah,
we need this.
And now they're great.
Yeah.
Trey, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Now let's go to North Carolina and talk to Todd. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Todd, what can we do for you?
Good morning, gentlemen. I am a Mustang guy. I'm ready to sell Mustang number 5 and acquire Mustang number 6. I'm trying to make a decision. Wanted to get you guys' insight. Looking at either a 20 to 22 Mach 1 or a 19 or 20 GT350. So they both have unique engines. I like the GT350. I'm a little concerned about the flat plane crank and all that. And just wanted to see if you had any service history with any of those or had any opinion on the longevity of that GT350 engine. Just to pick you guys' brains.
I like the GT350. And I'm not worried about that flat plane crank either.
I got two friends that have campaigned those cars in racing, and they do it up at Brainerd Motorsports, and they love that car, that GT350, and that flat plane crank 302, whatever they call it. That is a fun, different motor that I've never driven one, but I've had it explained to me, and that doesn't do it. But I think that would be a unique enough experience, and I wouldn't be worried about the longevity of that. That would be a fun car because you're just riding the car different. You're riding that car with more RPMs, and you're gonna probably work that car a little bit harder if you're gonna play with it. But I just think that would be a fun car to play around with. That's my own opinion, and it's based on nothing. You're the guy that's had 5 or 6 Mustangs. We should be asking you,
right?
Have you had a chance to drive each of them?
I have, and they're very, they're both basically the same car with the same suspension and everything, which is the fun part. But yeah, that 5.2 liter Voodoo engine is pretty spectacular when you wind it out to 8,200 RPM.
And I forgot that the name of it, that they called it the Voodoo engine. You got to get it just because of that.
That's cool, yeah.
So, I didn't know if y'all had worked on any at the shop or anything, or
not with that. I had a customer come up. I've had a few customers come up with different cars like that they've purchased so I could drive them. But I had a customer come up so I could drive his, and that was cool. I liked it. It definitely winds up a little higher. It's got a higher RPM band in it, but I like the GT350. I really like that car. I've only had 3 Mustangs. I haven't had that many Mustangs, but they were all different. I like them. I just something about the Mustang is, and Chris was saying too, they're all about their exhaust. They pretty much always have been since the mid 70s, and as they went up, you can pretty much close your eyes and tell a Mustang if it's in stock configuration as far as the exhaust goes. But I'm fine to those. I like them.
I'm going to give you a few minutes here, not even a few minutes, because we got some other calls stacked up. But just quickly, what's the Mustangs you've owned or owned? Because I'd like to know. That sounds fun.
Well, I started with a 65 notchback, Then I had 269 Mach 1s, one a 351 and one a 428 Cobra Jet, a 71 Boss 351, and I currently have an 84 20th anniversary edition with a Ford Racing crate motor in it.
So of that list that you've had or had, which one would you wish was sitting in the driveway today?
Oh, my 69 Mach 1 Cobra Jet all day long. That car was a ball. Of course, when I had it, it was just a used car, and now it's like a retirement plan.
Exactly. You said that. You said that well.
Yeah. Todd, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Let us know.
And he should buy a yellow one, I think. That's just my own
That
preference.
84, back when we were in high school, that 84 was the thing. 5-speed, 302, convertible if you could get one. But that was like, if you had one of those or you had a Z28 or a Firebird, you were
special.
You were cool.
I had a friend who had a girlfriend that pulled up, and she had just gotten one. And we were like, this is a mismatch right here, man. This is a big mismatch. He doesn't deserve any of this. 866-594-4150. Let's go to New York and talk to Don. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Don, what can we do for you?
Good morning, gentlemen. Now you have me wanting to buy a Mustang.
Yeah.
But I have a 2014 Ford Taurus, and I have a kind of a weird problem. I use the combination to get in all the time when I'm going to get in and drive, and as a result, the right side rear view mirror turns in automatically. It just goes in as far as it can. So when I start driving and I look, I'm just looking at my quarter panel. So and then I've tried to reset it to the seat settings, and that's not doing the trick. It still will turn itself in every time automatically when I start to drive. So that's my first problem.
What a strange question. Just that exists as a possibility.
Yeah.
The mirror's guilty. It's turning itself in.
Right.
Dad joke alert.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh boy. There are two settings for that. You've got driver's side and passenger side. Yeah. You've got driver 1 and driver 2. And some of those, I think this one, you can set the code, one code for driver 1, one code for driver 2. So if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the driver 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 for driver 2, you got to make sure we're on the right setting. It might have somehow got on the other setting. So what you're doing when you're programming it for driver 1 on your door to get the seats and everything and the radio presets and all that stuff, the mirrors to set where they're supposed to, it might actually be driver 2 that the code is for, so it's not setting. You're going to have to do some research in the manual to figure it, because I have no idea how you select which one you want. Most people just have one code for everything, and it sets it. There's also a turn on or off preset mode, so if somebody gets in the car, moves everything around for you, and you use the key fob or you use the buttons on the door to get in, it won't change any settings. It won't put them back where they belong unless you push the button on the door. So you can turn that off. There are little tricks. Tell you what, if you go to YouTube and you type in like Ford Taurus keyless entry tricks and things like that, or things you don't know about your Ford Taurus on settings, boy, you'll come up with, it's like owning an iPhone and learning that there's 10,000 little shortcut tricks you can do. Oh, I didn't know my phone would do that if I did this. How come every time I shake my phone, it erases my message? Because you've got that setting turned on. There's different...
What? No.
That's where it went. That's where that pop-up notice went from the doctor. Anyways, there's all sorts of things like that you can do. So it's not abnormal.
This call didn't get any less weird the more you talk about
my
the settings.
Tahoe did this. Every time I would get in and hit the... when I put it into park to get out, the mirrors would go all the way up and go click, 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 click. They were going too far, and I had to go through, and I realized that there was a driver 1 and a driver 2 on remotes, on the door pad, all of it.
Don, did you have another question too?
Yeah. The only thing I can add to the previous thing was I've tried to program it on driver 1 and 2,
Mhm.
and it still will do the same thing. I don't know if that helps the issue or not, but it's kind of weird.
Well, if you're confident that you've got them programmed, I mean, what I would probably do is find out how the programming is set and go set both settings identical. Or if there's sometimes they'll have a restore to factory default.
Which I think is what he's saying.
Yeah, and you put everything back, and then if after that it was still trying to turn it in, there's a module or a wire short or something that is what would command that to do that?
It
Otherwise,
feels
Russ?
guilty. It's trying to turn itself in.
That was my bad joke.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I think it's still a program. It may need to be, the module may need to be reflash programmed again. It may just be overextending past where it's supposed to go. And that's definitely a possibility. The software needs to have an upgrade to it.
Because it's still commanding it to do something.
Yeah.
So the circuit's working. It's just not working correctly.
It's going too far. It should know where to
and I
stop.
can reset it, manually with the button after it does that, and then I'm fine for that drive, and then I'm fine until the next time I use the car.
Get yourself a wire cutters.
And
set it, and then just snip.
No.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
No, look for. There's got to be a restore factory defaults on there and start over. And if that doesn't work, you might end up having to get it programmed.
Okay, so I'm thinking the body control module handles that, right?
It does. It handles the keyless functions and that, and then the wireless module handles the actual receiving from your key fob button. But that that programmable memory module there is what would have.
If you have that package, a lot of times they store some of that operations in the seat module also.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a
seat memory module.
Yep, a little bit tricky there yet.
This is a thinker.
Yeah.
Don, we're going to take a break. If you have a second question you want to hang around for, just stay right where you are. Otherwise, just let yourself go and we'll know when we get back.
Turn yourself in.
866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel and join the Hoodie fan club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Ralph means, congratulations from all of us here under the hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu, the place to go for automotive training.
Mm-hmm. All over the place, too.
All over.
Lots of
campuses.
Not just nice places either. I thought they had all southern nice.
You can't finish this comment the way you started that.
Yeah.
You could stop. You're in a box, Chris.
Yep. I just realized that. They have many locations.
Not just warm ones.
There we go.
There we go.
Help us out, Russ.
Let's go back to New York and talk to Don. You have another question, Don?
Yes, I do. I've been getting a code lately, PO138, which is O2 sensor circuit, high voltage bank 1, sensor 2. Where would that oxygen sensor be? Is that that would be after the
catalytic converters?
Okay.
On the side of the engine that has the number 1 spark plug in it, that's the one you follow down to the downstream of that catalytic converter. So, and engines are always that way. So bank 1 is always the one containing number 1, and it can be on the left or the right side of the engine, front or back, depending on where it's at. I tell people, just look up a diagram on the internet that shows which cylinder is number 1. That'll be bank 1, and then the other side will be bank 2. But whatever one contains the number 1 spark plug is always bank 1, and then you follow that down the pipe until you get to that. About some cars only have 2 oxygen sensors, one in the front, one in the back, even on a 6-cylinder. But this car is going to have 4.
Okay. Yeah, it has the 3.5 liter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, great. I appreciate your help, guys. Have a great day.
Don, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Jack. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Jack, what can we do for you?
Yeah, good morning, guys. Been a while.
Well, hi, Jack.
My 51 Chevy pickup that I've been working on for a few years. I'm trying to get all the mechanical stuff done first. I finally got my oil leak stopped. I had to didn't have the distributor tightened down, and I could pour out the back. But now I had a fuel leak yesterday, and I couldn't tighten up the fittings tight enough. It just kept coming out, and I had run the truck a little bit, just a couple minutes at the most. But then I took the fitting off. I thought I had to do something, so I took the fitting off, and I took the gas line and I raised it clear up above where the line to the gas tank. It was above the gas tank, but it still kept pushing out of there. I plugged it off. I went back to my tank, and it's got one of those aftermarket little necks on it, and it screwed, the cap screws down into the, with threads. And so I took a screwdriver and I loosened it up, and whoosh, it was full of air. Now, why would that be?
Not venting. So that tank, the tank should have a vent in the back, and if it doesn't have a vent back there, then what happens is when the heat builds up the day or sun gets on it, it can contain enough pressure. It only takes about a quarter pound to override that gravity. If you're holding the line up above the level of the tank, if you put pressure in the tank, it's going to be like a fuel pump, but it'd be a fuel push. And it's going to push that out and out that line, and it can actually overflow. If you got a carburetor, it can overflow your carburetor by pushing past the float and spilling out the vent on it. So that tank needs to be vented back there. And they make a couple different kind of vents. They make a little screw-in vent you can get from some of the fuel tank companies, and it'll have like a pressure bleed on it. So like at 1/8 PSI, it'll vent out, and if it gets a suction on it, it'll also let air in as well, but it'll keep the moisture out on a normal even day. But you under vacuum, like when the engine's pumping fuel, you want it to be able to pull through that vent as well. But that tells me if it can't let the pressure off, that thing's going to vapor lock as well, because it's going to eventually, the fuel will drain down, pumping it into the engine. Let's say you just put a half a tank in it, it doesn't have a vent. So unless you're running it with the cap loose.
Does anybody make a cap that has the vent built right into it?
Sure, but this is a screw-on cap, so being an aftermarket tank, you're probably going to have to get that separate vent, unless the company you bought that tank from makes a vented cap, or this vented cap is broken.
That's what I was thinking of, the aftermarket type situation. Yeah, look at these stupid gas cans anymore compared to what they used to be. They, they start swelling up if you leave it sitting in the wrong place, because I understand it, that they don't vent, and I hate it.
Every time you hit the thing.
Yeah, my wife's like, is our can pregnant?
And then in the winter, they're squashed down.
Jack, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. I have a topic of discussion for another time, or sitting around.
Gas cans?
No. Wonder what the longest project time is. And this is not related to Jack's question. It just made me think of it. From, I'm going to park that car and fix it up someday, to getting it on the road. I wonder what the longest period of time has been. Yours is pretty long there. You've got a pretty good, your pickup, your Model T went from that's a pretty good span of time.
Does not done count?
No.
You got to get it back on the road. My dad had a pretty long one. He had a 57 Chevy that he bought young, and he sold it on his auction when he was 60, not done. But it had been started. And I have a Trans Am that's going down the same road.
Mine was about 6 years, yeah.
No. Yours sat for,
before that?
Even, you started that when you were a kid.
Yeah, and it never did get 100% finished before we sold it. And then when it came back, it was torn down again.
Yours is a unique case, but that question, how long
I might be going on 10 years on my one.
That's nothing. Let's talk to Jay. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Jay, what can we do for you?
Well, Shannon and Russ, how you guys doing?
Good.
We're doing great.
I got quite a story for you, man. This has nothing to do with fixing anything, but Shannon, we've been contracted to do the high limit series, right? And so we were at in Ohio yesterday or 2 days ago for the sprint car series, working the show. And after the show got done, a couple gentlemen come up to me. They work at the track, and they're both mechanics. And they said, "So you're from the Sioux Falls area, huh?" And I went, "Yeah." Mm-hmm. "You ever heard of that Nordstrom show?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I not only heard of it, but I kind of grew up with those guys, at the races and things." And I'll tell you what, his name was Tom, and I'm sure he's listening right now from Ohio. So they're both mechanics. They both are diesel mechanics. and they love your show. And he was almost memorized by Shannon. Not that you're not anything, Russ, but Shannon really kind of got his attention. And anyway, so I was looking for your phone number in my phone, Shannon, and I didn't remember how I put you in my phone, so I couldn't call you that night because he just wanted to kind of say hi to you.
Oh, that's cool.
But here's what I told him I would do. I said, I'd call you up. I'm going to buy him one of your hoodies, and I'm going to send that to him. And I'm sure he's listening now. His first name is Tom, I believe. But I thought it was quite a story. You know, these guys are 15 hours away, and
awesome.
as they're working in their shop, they're listening to you. And some of the stuff you guys talk about is a refresher, and some of it they kind of open their eyes and say, well, that's a different perspective on the way to do things. And so, you know, you've got some really great listeners across this country. You already knew that, but I wanted to share one of them with you.
Well, Jay, thank you. And you get Tom's size, and if he's got his partner there, you get his size too, and we'll get him hooked up with hoodies. And for those that are listening across the Under the Hood Show network, Jay runs one of the, if not the premier safety services for sprint car racing, dirt track racing. I'm sure you could go to any sort of racing and perform at the highest level to assure driver safety and be there for aftercare and immediate care if there's an accident. And so if you watch Flow Racing or Dirt Vision or any of those that you take in that kind of stuff, you've probably seen his company in action.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's pretty cool. There's a lot of good stuff that's come out of the Sioux Falls area. And just last week on our after show, Jay, we were talking to John Dodson, and if that name clicks anything for you, his dad was one of the pioneers of NASCAR on the beach, starting from the very beginning, and he's been involved in like Rusty Wallace's championship. He was on the team in 1989 with the Kodiak car, and we interviewed him because he runs the NASCAR Technical Institute for UTI, and it's one of the connections we've made from some other friends of ours. And he was telling us a story in the after show, and I think it might have been the after show that we didn't record.
Oh, yeah.
That his partner that he works daily with the NASCAR Technical Institute and UTI was in Germany on a river cruise.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was on the river cruise, he ran across some people, and they started talking, and they said they were from United Technical Institute. And do you know what that is? And it was a minister from North Dakota. I hope I have this story right. And he had said, he goes, well, yeah, we've heard about that on the Under the Hood show.
Yeah.
And so they were in Germany, and so he had to call up John Dodson and say, hey, that Under the Hood show that you partner with the those guys from South Dakota, somebody in Germany knew who they were, and they were from North Dakota. So those stories are fun.
Jay, thanks very much for the call. That's a cool story. Yeah, get back with Shannon there when you figure out.
We'll get you hooked up.
I have a few ideas for what you could have saved him as in your phone too. You have a few things in my
Shannon?
phone. Yeah, it
Like
could be
Shannon.
Yeah, maybe.
Put him in under.
I got some other ideas.
I got ways of saving things too. Chris.
866-594-4150. Let's go to California and talk to Jason. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Jason, what can we do for you?
Hi. Thank you for having me.
You bet.
I got a 2014 Toyota Corolla, and it had a misfire maybe 4 weeks back. I diagnosed it down to a cylinder 3 fuel injector, and part of that diagnosis was a ohm testing, and the specs were between 11 and 12.8 ohms. The first cylinder 1, 2, and 4 ohm tested at, I don't know, about 12.4, but the cylinder 3 injector ohm tested at 18 ohms. So my question is that out of spec between those ohms of 11 and 12.8? Is that out of spec at 18 ohms?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times you can check, too, if, let's say you're testing a set of, you got 16 injectors laying there. Maybe you got a 16-cylinder engine. I don't know, but you get 16 injectors, and they change with temperature, too. But if they're all the same temperature, and they've been laying in your garage for a year, and you test all of them, and you don't know the specs, but as you're testing them, you find one that is a couple ohms different than the rest of them, throw that one away. Because as long as it's the same part number, the same model, they should all be very even, and they should all vary with outdoor temperature, that ambient temperature. They should all vary the same. So if 15 of them are at 11, that 16th one should be 11. It shouldn't be 14 or 12 and a half or 9.5. They all should stay the same and float up and down about the same. So if you got one that's drastically different,
So
yeah,
we're assuming that there's not 15 bad ones and one good one.
Right. We're just talking in general. But on this 4-cylinder, yeah, if you've got one that's that far out, as that computer tries to fire them and applies the same amount of voltage equally to all of them, with one having different resistance, it is not going to fire the same as the other one. So I would replace that injector for sure.
Jason, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Don. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Don, what can we do for you?
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, I have a 2004 Buick Lesabre. I use it on my real mail carrier. Anyway, the other day, going along, I used my windows up and down, and all of a sudden, I could not open my window. And so I had to stop and get out of the car virtually to service my mailbox and stuff. And then one time when I got back in the car, I slammed the door shut, and then it started working again. So I just left the window down, and anyway, it stopped working, but I had my window down so I could service my mailbox and stuff. So anyway, when I got done with the route, I went to my mechanic, and he thought right away, well, it's my switch. Well, I had a switch from another Lesabre that I had, parked in my yard that a couple of years ago that quit working. So I bought that in, and that didn't make any difference. So then he got into, diagnosing it. He said, well, it's my door body control module. So he said, I got voltage going in, but nothing coming out. So anyway, I took the one out of the one I had parked and bought that in, but it didn't make any difference. And then he went online and he said he cannot get one anywhere, whether it be aftermarket or from GM. So I'm just wondering, what do I do besides junk the car?
The last part of this comment that you made reiterates back to a comment we had on an earlier show, that sometimes people get so caught up in what they think the repair is and trying to source a part and then getting all worried because they can't get a part.
Yeah.
And then they've stopped at that point diagnosing. And the problem, once they finally do find the treasured holy grail part and put it in, and then they have the same problem again.
Yeah.
And they've lost a week. Then they go back to the drawing board and find, oh, this is what it was.
I, myself, we see hundreds of these cars over the years come through.
Is that why mail carriers have Lesabres?
And they typically have spare cars.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it because there's so many of them around?
Right.
Okay.
But I myself have never had to replace one of those modules in one of these cars because they failed. So for you to have one failed, I could believe that. But if you got another one out of a spare car and that one didn't work either, very, very unlikely, highly unlikely.
That's it.
More likely is that the wiring in the tubing going through your door, not necessarily on the passenger side where you're delivering mail, probably on the driver's side, one of the wires or more are broken in there, or they're frayed and touching something. I would just grab that tube that the wires go through in the door, push it back, you pull it off the door, and you could attach it and reattach it just by hand, but pull it back as far as you can, and then just gently move the wires around and look. And if you see one that breaks off or is broke, you'll have to get some heat shrink, solder type butt connectors that have the solder built into them, crimp them all back together. That is going to be the likely culprit. We have repaired dozens of those model cars because the wiring was broken in the door, and that's a free repair as far as just some wire connectors and crimping and a heat gun to shrink them down as compared to putting modules in and things. But I really don't think you have a module out because we just don't see them fail.
You mean if Don does it, not free, like if he brings it to you?
No.
It's free.
A little more.
Bring it on in. Don, does that help you out? Give you a little bit of hope?
Well, a little bit, but I guess what concerns me, he said, because he used his meter, and he said there's voltage going into that module, but nothing coming out of it.
Right, and the module won't work. Nothing will come out of it if it doesn't have all the correct inputs. So if it's not connected to everything else it should be, both doors, it's not going to operate properly. But like I said, because we've seen so many of these come through, and I know we're not selling them here.
No.
It's not like we would know because we're an auto
We sell
recycler as well.
the heater controls, the heater control modules. We sell, there's different things in these cars. Lighting control modules. Over the years, we've sold a lot of, but I think if I hit my computer, I'm going to find a very low activity on that part.
So he's found the problem spot, just not the problem itself.
Yeah. Right. It's very likely it's got a wire that's broken, causing the readings to. The symptom is that there's nothing coming out of this module when you hit the buttons. But the actual problem is likely somewhere else, and it's probably going to be an easier one, like those doors. Look at those tubes. You can pull them back and inspect those wires in about 5 minutes for both doors. So I would look at that
Start
first.
there before you start getting too concerned about trying to find this part that's hard to find.
Don, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150.
And I think if he went to a self-service facility in his area, he could probably find a car that has that module in there. It's just not going to show up in anybody's inventory anywhere.
Sure. So if it does end up being
it's not popular, so they just don't list it.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Jared. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Jared, what can we do for you?
Thanks for taking my call, and the studio looks great and sounds great, Russ.
Thank you.
Hey, I have a 12 Impala, and I know you guys are coming up on a break here, so I'll try and be as quick as possible. Had a check engine lights that basically stated the ABS module is bad on my 12 Impala, so was saving up for that and just should have checked to see if I was low on brake fluid. That happened to be what the issue was. I ran it down so far where the brakes went down to the floor before checking the brake fluid. Found out it was a caliper. My driver's rear caliper was leaking in the back where I couldn't see it. Ended up the master cylinder was bad. Replaced the master cylinder. Sat there for 3 nights trying to bleed out. Got no brakes. Brought it into a service place. They bled them all out, and they were able to bleed the ABS out. It was good for about a month, and then the brakes now, when I sit at an intersection, they'll slowly go down to the floor and lose pressure until I bring it back up, push down again. Brought it back to them. They re-bled everything, said it was good, but nothing changed. Where should I go from here?
If you have no leaks in the system anywhere, you're not losing any fluid, the first thing we would do would be to take the 2 lines off the master cylinder one at a time, and you buy the caps that go in there first. They thread in to block that off, then step on the brake pedal once and hold it. If it stays solid and doesn't go down, we know the master cylinder is good. If it falls down, we got to put another master cylinder on it. There's no way around it. It's bad because we've blocked off the fluid out. Now, if it's sinking down after you've done that test and that master cylinder is solid, then the ABS pump is circulating fluid. It's bleeding around in a circle. So it's bleeding off the pressure like it was actively working, which means you'll need to replace the ABS control unit. We don't get a lot of them that fail, but we've had some that fail. And also, while bleeding, if the brake master cylinder is pushed too far down, it will fold over the seals inside, and it will fail as well too. So you've got to make sure you don't push it more than about a 1/4 inch at a time until you get it bench bled out the first time properly and get all the air out of it. But put a couple plugs in there and step on it and see if it's solid, and it should be solid.
Jared, thanks very much for the call. I don't want to, this is just for the rest of our listeners, not Jared, but did he wreck it? Like he thinks he did?
It can be if you push the brake cylinder. If you take a brand new master cylinder, fill it up with fluid, and then step on it all the way down to the floor to bleed it once, yeah, it's usually toast. There's no way you can come out of that. So you just got to push it about a quarter inch at a time.
And the not having brake fluid originally.
Right, it has to have brake fluid in it, and if your car loses brakes, like a brake line blows and it goes all the way to the floor, a lot of times it'll kill the master cylinder.
You go ahead.
I'm going to bring our guests in here.
We have guests. Let's.
So Shannon couldn't keep it the microphone.
No,
thing.
I kept
You saw it.
triggered.
Yeah.
Loud. Yeah. What are my mics there? Guess 1, 2.
Guess 1 and 2. This is 1. That's 2. 1, 2.
1, 1B.
What?
Well, they're not.
No.
They're not.
We're still live in the air right now.
They're not. Right.
Yeah,
Just
good
saying.
to see you. And all you got to worry about is talking. That's all I have to worry about.
All right, Shen, you want to introduce our guest?
I can introduce our guest here. Well, we've got guests from the Northwest, all the way down from Spokane, Washington, via somewhere on the East Coast. We've got the Honorable Max Spalding and Russ Spalding.
What?
And no, not you, Russ.
Oh.
And in my world of auto recycling, the Spalding operation is legendary. And I am pumping a little wind up their skirt right now, but I would like, they're on a third, fourth generation, fifth generation. I missed that. And they are a powerhouse of auto help in the Northwest. And
Are you named after his dad?
I am not.
Oh, okay.
My son is named after him, if that helps.
Well, have you guys get a
little closer to it?
Closer to the mics. But Russ Spalding, him and I have gotten to be friends through the industry. We're in a partnership together. Max Spalding is one of the icons in our industry for me. He's a past president of our trade association, and I'm going down that same road right now.
You just started.
You just got it started on that road, and so it's a big deal for these folks to come visit us on their way back from. Where were you coming from?
We were coming back from Pennsylvania. We flew into Pennsylvania 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
And picked up a truck and are headed back. So we're stopping here for a day to see your operation because we know it's one of the best around. So we thought we should learn some things from you.
There's a few things we're going to teach you today that you don't want to remember.
No, we do. We want to remember it all, man. We want to remember it all. So it's a great place.
Tell us about Spalding Auto Parts. Get a little closer to the mic.
Closer?
Yeah, tell us about, both of you, Max, Russ, tell us about Spalding Auto Parts. Give us a brief history of how it started, and then tell us what is happening there today.
My dad started that in 1934. He actually was working for the yard, and the guy had alcohol problems. And the alcohol problems got the best of him, and he sold out to my dad, and that was in January the 2nd, 1934. Mm-hmm.
And so that was the start of Spalding Auto Parts.
Yeah, at the time it was called East Sprague Auto Wrecking. As soon as he bought it, he changed the name to Spalding Auto Parts.
That was a good choice.
Good choice. It was on 2 city lots, so there wasn't much room. Very, very small operation.
So if you're watching or listening and get a chance to pick this up, you can go on to their website, go to spaldingautoparts.com, and if you go to the About Us section, they've got I think a fairly current overhead view of the facility right along Interstate 90 as you're going through, heading out that way. Is
Spokane Valley.
Spokane Valley, beautiful area of the country. Yep. And that started then. And so now what's happening there now, Russ?
Well, we have these slide backs that we're coming back through. And then also we do a lot of what you do, which is the same thing as far as tearing cars apart. We're processing about 1,000 cars a month. That's with both our first full service, self-service, heavy truck, light truck, import, all of the above. So we do all kinds, all years, all makes, all models. So we don't specialize in any one of them. We specialize in all of them, basically.
So when they mention that about 1,000 cars a month between all operations, at our facility, just to give an example, for people that are from this area that might listen, because we got listeners all over the country, but we'll go through 300 to 400 cars a month total between our operations. Mm-hmm. And so they are, in a sense, a double or almost triple the size in operations of what we do. We have like 80 employees. You have
200. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that number down a little bit?
No, it's been balancing between about the 185 to 205 pretty consistently for the last few years. We're trying to keep it right at 200.
So the operations that you have in Spokane and in that area, what are they called? Because you have multiple operations.
We have a North store called Pull and Save, which is a self-service facility. We have a new operation probably 4 years ago that opened up in Missoula, Montana. And then right down in the middle of Spokane Valley, we have an import yard, heavy truck yard, self-service yard, and then a domestic yard. So covered all there.
Did the wrecker sales, how long has that been going on? I knew you did that, but Max, how long have you guys been doing wrecker sales?
20-some years.
And did that spring out of your, did your medium-duty, heavy-duty truck division spring out of that, or did that spring out of your medium-duty, heavy-duty truck, or did it have nothing to do with it? Because you always had to buy trucks to pick up cars, and you got into it.
Yeah, just that we had to buy trucks, and when we bought the trucks, we would sell them and to get new ones all the time. So we decided to start selling new ones too, and we did.
Would that come from the contracts, though? Because I think some of that was pushed by the contracts you had 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So it was a little bit different.
We had more trucks on the road maybe.
Well, and I know what you're talking about there, because the insurance salvage contracts, it used to be that an auto recycler would have a direct agreement with an insurance company to buy all their salvage in a certain area of the country. We used to have that same arrangement in this part of the country, and at the time, you were on call basically to get these cars picked up in a certain number of days in a pretty big, in your case, a very big geographic region.
Yes.
And so you had to have the equipment and the people to go get those on command. And nowadays, that's all handled for the most part by large auction companies.
Yes.
Correct.
Do you guys still have any of the contracts left?
No, those contracts are long gone.
Don't have any left.
Yeah, there's a
Just
few
think of
out
the
there
past.
for us that are some local regionals and mutuals that we work with, and we've been able to take care of them well enough. We still are able to keep things rolling that way because the local service that we give them. But that has been a big change.
Huge change. And like I say, it probably brought us a broader spectrum of vehicles than we needed at the time. But today we're able to kind of focus in on the year, make, and model we want at the time we want it through the auctions. So it's a little bit different dynamic than it was then, but it actually works really well for us.
Well, I know that in the Spokane area, when we were out there for meetings that we had with our group, we went out on the town one night I'm going somewhere with this. We went out in the town one night with our group, and we've got our vehicle recyclers group. We've got some really great family businesses.
They are.
All got their names on the front door, and
They're every day.
And we work in the businesses, and we were going to go out to a restaurant, and we got not scolded. We got warned ahead of time, us youngsters at the time.
This was a few years ago.
Yeah, to not get too out of hand. And it was from Max. And I'm telling this story because at the end of that night, it wasn't the youngsters that was the problem. It was all the older folks that were with us that were getting in trouble and making too much noise and carrying on. But the reason I bring that up, though, is Max has got a lot of great stuff you've done in that community to help, that you've been involved with. Tell us some of the stuff you got going on in Spokane that's been an opportunity that's came your way that started with Spalding Auto Parts.
Well, now I'm not as much involved with the business.
You're
as
so
I did
humble.
one time.
You're so humble. So just go ahead and talk about the things you've been involved with to help.
Right now, well, I was on the United Way board for a while, and then I went on to, we started what they call the Hub, the Sports Center for Youth. And we have a building that's got 5 basketball courts. We've got...
Sounds like just a small building.
Yeah, it is. Just that it's a nice building, and we were blessed with that. And now we're building 4 soccer fields, and that's a big thing for us. We're talking many millions of dollars we're trying to raise right now. We're going to break ground on that this fall.
And that's going to be right in the Spokane area also, correct?
It's going to be what they call Liberty Lake, which is actually the eastern side of the Spokane Valley.
Are you guys having big population growth in that area, or what are you seeing? I mean, with all the migration you talk about in the news, people coming and going, are you... I mean, I was just so impressed with that area when I was there, but I haven't been there for a number of years now.
The number of apartments and things like that being built is remarkable. And I think it's the same wherever you go. The price of just a rental property for a family to live in is getting so expensive. But they're building lots and lots of apartments.
because the people are needing them. And then you got so many people now, it's getting the cost of home ownership is unattainable for a lot of people. So the apartments are becoming so much more attractive again. It's just, it seems like it's so cyclical what we've went through. Chris, Russ, you got any questions for these guys? Obviously, I know them well, but as we sit here, what might, Chris, you're always good for a question or two.
Well, I'm just thinking about the road trip across the country.
There we go.
How's that going?
Road trip. So
yeah.
Ask about that.
Yeah. How's that been going?
Where did we start? Penn?
We started in Mercer, Pennsylvania.
Yep. And we place called East Penn.
East Penn is, yeah.
Yeah. And then we did a tour there, picked up a truck there, and then we went to what I call Chevron. You call it something else.
Miller Products.
Miller Industries.
Miller Industries. Yep. They make most all the slide beds in the Miller section. It used to be that we were very separated, the Chevron, the Century, the whatever it might be. But now they're all the same beds. They just stick a different placard on them.
Yeah, they gave us a tour, which was fantastic, and to see their operation was impressive. How many beds were they producing?
100 a day.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! I would have not guessed that number. So if you've ever watched now they don't do it as much anymore as they used to, but in the NASCAR races, or if you've been by a traffic accident, when they talk about a slide back, we call it a rollback.
Yep.
Everybody's got a different name for it. A platform wrecker. I mean, you can hear all kinds of stuff where they roll that bed back to a low degree angle to be able to safely load that equipment on, and then they have a stinger on the back. You can wheel lift another vehicle behind. That's the kind of truck that they're driving. I see it's like a Silverado 6500 or something like that. You're driving today.
It is. Mm-hmm.
So when you took off on this trip, that's a good vein to go. Did you have a set number of days, or have you done this before, the two of you?
I have done this trip with my brother. I have two brothers. I've done it with each one of them back when I was in my 20s. And I believe this is the first trip I've taken to pick up a vehicle with you.
We went down to Boise once and got one, but first time we've come back to Pennsylvania to get one.
Yeah, and just taking our time. There's no dates involved. We just get to decide where we want to go, when we want to go. So we're going to head on down I-90 westbound. So
our manager Benji, we were talking the other night about you guys coming, and he goes, "What would it be like if you and your dad got in a truck?" and I said, we've taken some journeys before, but I've never anything like that at all. So
no, it's been
we
fun.
were trying to figure out who would get anxious first and think that we had to go and we've had enough. Between the two of us, there's a gene in there that once you've been somewhere enough, you're like, okay, we're done with this.
Yeah, if
it's awesome. I love the build-up. I'm excited, but I'm done with it now.
No, when we decided to come here, I called you, what was it, a month ago or a couple weeks ago? I don't know what it was. But we set no time. So I can tell you, if we're here all day and spend the night, it's absolutely fantastic. If we don't, if we move on at noon or something, it's fine too. So we're taking it pretty easy.
Well, I know I personally got an appointment in Sioux Falls today. I remember I mentioned that late in the day. Yeah. So I got a little bit of a deadline, but other than that, we're going to give you all the time you want to be here at Nordstrom. So have you had any events along the way? Is everything pretty smooth sailing so far? Is the only event happened when you got here to Nordstrom's?
One lost phone.
Really? So I've been,
but that's it.
I've been texting you, and I've determined that you do not text and drive.
I do not text and drive.
Because you do not respond very well after I ask a question.
I do not.
It's
if
like
I'm driving, I'm
he
not
fires a missile, and then he must get in the truck and go. And I'm a communicator.
Yeah. You want to know now.
I want to know what's going
Shannon,
on.
If I'm driving, I'm not texting.
Well, that's
good. No way.
But do you ever pee?
Not while he's driving.
About every 2.5 hours. It's okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's good.
So tell about the family and the business. I mean, you've mentioned the 5 generations now.
Right now, my wife's there. Her name's Jody. I have 2 boys, 2 daughters that are there, and my grandson. So there's and then of course Max is there too. So of the 5 generations, there's 4 generations that work there. We have family members. When I say family members, I'm talking about employees that are 2nd and sometimes 3rd generation that are there. At one time we had 3 sets of brothers that were of 3 sets of 3 brothers working there. So we had, it was a great time to see them all running through. So we get a lot of different family members.
Well,
coming
obviously
in.
a great place to work if you have that kind of camaraderie where families are bringing family members to work.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I love it, but I'm biased too. A little bit biased.
It's okay to be biased.
It is.
It's all right.
I see that here too, though, Shannon. It's
It
fantastic
happens.
Place, so.
Well, you've got some of the people I've known over the years, your general managers and stuff, Dave Colcott, Jim Deaton now, and I know there's other realms of the Deaton family that are.
Jim's a second generation, and Jim's son's working there right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And his sister works there. So yeah, it's actually fantastic.
What is Max? You've been around for a long ride on this journey of auto recycling, and you've seen everywhere from, I'm sure, boom trucks in the yard lifting things up to modern day rollback trucks to everything in between. What, frankly, has amazed you the most as you've seen it all unfold? I mean, you've been involved in a lot of it because you've been a pioneer of this stuff too. But what's really been the thing that was a game changer for you? It's something that just comes to the top of your head.
Computers.
Yeah.
Because, it used to be that we would have cars in the yard, and there was two of us on the counter, and we had to know what was on the car. We couldn't use a computer. If somebody asked for a part, we had to know if it was there. I mean, we're talking a number of cars. It's not just 5. We're talking hundreds of cars, and we had to know those cars. And I had a person working for me at the time. And in fact, that was Jim's dad, Jim Deaton's dad that you spoke of. And he had a memory that was great. And I could remember too. But the funny thing about him and myself was we didn't remember cars the same way.
That's interesting.
Interesting.
I would tell him what color a car was, and he'd tell me where it was hit. Not that I couldn't tell you where it was hit, but when I said, well, that 56 Chevy, the blue one, he would say, the one hit in the left rear corner.
Together, that's a great combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, the computers were game changers, and we think about like today as we sit here doing this Under the Hood show from a studio that's in our auto recycling facility. Cardash Part is one of our sponsors, and they have taken that to the next level where all that computer data that's housed in one recycling facility now is shared across the entire country for people to find things and help Spalding Auto Parts sell things in Georgia.
Yep.
And help Nordstrom's Automotive be able to buy things from someone in Spokane.
Well, and the consumer can find it.
Exactly. And they can find someone close to them that's a Automotive Recyclers Association certified auto recycler, like Spalding Auto Parts is and Nordstrom's is. And so you look for the people that are the best operators, and you can find that by the icons that are on the listings of their names. And you can find people that are going to be there for you for a lot of years and a lot of time. But you can research the vendor just like we do, guys. We have people that call us that want to buy parts from us, and a lot of them are brokers that are sitting in an apartment somewhere, and they are calling using those systems. So they no longer have a Jim Deaton dad. What was his name?
Hubert.
They don't have that guy remembering where the car was hit and go out looking for it. That was my dad and Danny Foster and myself growing up. They don't have that anymore, but they say, oh, we're going to put ads in Yellow Pages, and when you see the Facebook Marketplace ads that got like fields of engines, it looks like, and they show them for a ridiculously low price, those are most of the time a broker that's just sitting there, and he's buying, knowing what's available for resources to find parts because you don't know how to find it.
Yeah, they have no inventory.
And so then they call someone like us and buy it, and then they mark it up and sell it to you and have it shipped to you, and they sit in an apartment and do this. That's why we encourage people when they're going to good practices for auto recycling. I'm kind of delving off here, but our families are so enamored in this. And what we've done with the trade association, with Max being a president, we try to promote the professional auto recycler. And so you have a customer that'll call us as a broker, and I'll teach our salesmen and our other staff here, Google the place you're buying the part from. Take a look at what kind of operation it is. If you say you're buying it from Max Auto Parts, and you look up Max Auto Parts and the location for their address is not in a commercial zone or not where you can see buildings that are huge or commercial structures, you might have reason to wonder about what experience you're going to have. But when you can go in and see a business and see a picture of whether it's acres of cars or actual warehouses that you can Google walk through with an owner
Well, check how
on a
many
YouTube
years they've been in
channel.
business.
Yeah, how many years they've been in business. All those things, you might be in trouble. The other thing that we tell people to do, what's something with the computer? I'm going to quiz you guys that is put on the invoice for every vehicle.
VIN number.
Where the part came from.
Yeah.
Even if I buy a part from Spalding Auto Parts and I broker it in for Nordstrom's to sell to one of my customers, I have the VIN number on my invoice of your source vehicle.
Yep.
And if you run that VIN number on Carfax, guess what? It's a 95% truth serum about where that car's been, how many miles are on it.
Yep.
And so if you've got somebody telling you out of an apartment that they're going to sell you this engine that's got 60,000 miles on it, and the car's 30 years old, that's an unreasonable expectation. Run the VIN number, check them out. They might be lying to you. And so I don't know. When you mention the computer, it has changed the world for every industry, and no different in the automotive recycling industry.
Well, it's interesting too, is we actually inventory 2 or 3 times the number of parts than we ever did before. I mean, before you couldn't tell if there was a switch unless you remembered it. You couldn't tell if there was a switch in the car or if you needed to inventory that part. Now I can tell you I need that switch on the shelf, and I pull it as it goes through the shop, and I have it available for you after we've inspected it, ready for purchase.
Because we know there's a demand for it.
Yeah, exactly right. So there's a huge difference there.
Well, I'm glad you guys have stopped in to visit Nordstrom's. I'm glad you stopped in, and it was actually one of our salesmen, Rodney, that had the idea. He goes, hey, when those guys come, why don't you bring them up on the after show and interview them? I said, Rodney, that's a great idea if I can get them up here.
Well, thank you.
And so we can just let everybody know about good partners in the industry, good people in the industry, and also about a great industry.
Yeah, and a great industry. But thank you.
And we know we know how to have fun too.
Yeah.
I got to watch a hotel go down in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
an
about
implosion.
that.
Oh, yeah.
With this gentleman.
It was fun.
That was a night to remember.
That was a very good
night.
night.
Yep,
Yes,
that was a night to remember. You're
was it supposed to?
Yeah,
right.
It was supposed. I just got it. Yes, it was supposed to go down. It was a planned implosion.
Planned implosion. Yes, and it was fun to watch. It was good. Yeah. So thank you.
Well, Max Spalding, Russ Spalding, thank you for stopping in at the after show. We've got a little more production to do after this, and I'll catch up with you folks. And we're glad you're here, and we're going to spend some time checking it out and make sure we got all of our yard vehicles on all 4 wheels when I get out of here.
Gotta do that.